Sound speeds, and welcome to my history. Now, for this video, I'm going to go into candid mode because there's really no reason for me not to. I'm just going to be directly addressing you, telling you about my past a little bit, and how I came to be here with this YouTube channel that you're now watching. I don't honestly expect a whole lot of people to watch this video, but I'm doing this because I feel kind of drawn to. I hit two milestones at about the same time, and I really am happy about both of them. Number one is I hit 1,500 subscribers. And the second is that I released my 100th video. So both of those were about the same time, and I really am happy about both of those. Thank you for watching this, and we'll see how long to stick with this. I'll try to make it as interesting as possible. Let me start by saying that as a child, I wanted to be an actor. It's one of those things that I guess a lot of kids, they watch movies and they decide they want to be an actor, but me, I really wanted to be. I would basically grab, my grandmother, anytime she had her 16 or 18 millimeter, I guess I should say, camcorder. Like it wasn't even camcorder. What was it? 8 millimeter was film, Super 8 millimeter film. And I was always wanting her to just roll footage of me doing something, climbing up something or running around like a little crazy kid. But then we got a video camera. And when I say we, it's basically because she got the video camera, but I started monopolizing all the time of it. I think I was just over 10 years old. It was in the late 80s. I really liked the idea of the video camera because it recorded picture with sound. And from there, I started to just make the worst ninja movies you'd ever seen. I'd invite friends over, we'd shoot these things, and I'd have these concepts about what I wanted it to be and how I wanted it to be. And I did all kinds of crazy things. Like at one point, I put all of my clothes into like some of my one of my long sleeve shirts and my long pants, and I put socks, and I just tied all this stuff together, and I didn't sew it, but I connected it up so that way it would stay together and it would look like kind of a dummy. And the reason why is because I wanted to be able to at one point show myself like throwing my enemy. Little goofy, crazy, stupid ninja movies that you'll never see on this channel. I'm never going to show a clip of that. And I say never, and of course I'll probably end up doing it. I'm going to try not to say of course. I hate seeing that in the edit. I hate seeing me say that. It drives me nuts. Okay, but I won't talk about that because there's really no reason to. It's just one of those things that drives me nuts. Like the phrase, as you can see, that's another one of those things that just drives me nuts. I can't stand it. But of course it's all over YouTube. I got to get over this. I got to better myself. I'm constantly working on this. Usually I edit out the of courses. Okay. So let's continue. With this video camera, I was editing inside the camera. And in doing so, I was making these little videos that there was a lot of dead air, just at least familiarizing myself with this. I was performing to the camera. I wanted to be an actor. My mom suggested that when I got to the end of my elementary school days, she said, why don't you audition for the DeKalb Center for the Performing Arts at Avondale High School? It's a performing arts program. So if you don't know what that is, watch the movie Fame. It's kind of like that, but more realistic. Now, their program, Avondale High School, is the local school I was going to go to unless I went to a private school. And it ended up being that Avondale was the performing arts school also. I auditioned for the program on 4 of the 4 criteria: singing, dancing, acting, and what was the other one? Singing, dancing, acting, and an instrument. That's what it was. There was the 4 criteria. I'm not a dancer, but at the time I was studying Shaolin Kung Fu, or at least I had a past of it. I wasn't actively pursuing it at the time. So I did some of my forms to at least show action and movement. And they thought that was interesting. Then I played my guitar and sang a song. And the 3 people that I was auditioning for, it took them all of 5 seconds to realize that I was a very basic guitar player, and singing I was basically really bad at it. So Miss Powers was one of the teachers that basically stopped me and said, come over here for a second. Took me over. She started playing on the piano and said, sing this song. And she tells me this song. And she was like giving a kind of a, constructive type face, like she was listening to my voice. And I think she was probably being nice, but my voice is garbage. She was probably seeing if I was beyond hope, in all honesty. But Either way, I still auditioned with a monologue, and really you had to have 2 of the 4 to audition with in order to make it into the program. Something I did impress them enough to allow me into the program. And from there, I started studying drama and really hoping to be an actor. Now, they did a lot of different shows. The DeKalb Center for the Performing Arts program was started by Richard Lightgeb in the late 80s. It might have been early 80s. I can't remember. My mind is a little bit, I think it was actually early 80s now that I think about it. But he had started with Mr. Lightgeb spending money out of his own pocket to put on a spring musical in the cafeteria. And based on the success of that, he made back all of his money and then made enough money to put on another one the following year. And from there, they started doing more. And, you know, with the school's internal drama program, they really started to do more and more not videos, plays. Man, all this YouTube stuff. So he started doing more and more plays. And the program started to become more and more of a success. The school decided that, or the county decided to build an auditorium that would make it easier for the performing arts program that was going to start up. They decided to form a performing arts program, the DeKalb Center for the Performing Arts, specialized in drama. There was a dance program. It was really awesome in many ways. Now, it was almost a decade later when I joined the school. It was probably like 8 years later, something like that. And I started the school and decided you had to have 2 performing arts classes. I chose dance, and because you had to as a junior and as a, as a 8th and a 9th grader, you had to have dance, and I was a 9th grader. So the other one was I decided to take as an elective this like triple class. Every single quarter was different, and one of them was drama. And the following year, I decided to, you know, dance was actually pretty fun. I enjoyed it. And, you know, let the truth be known. It was blasting music. It was dancing. It was girls in leotards. And I'm a guy. What can I say? It was also a lot of fun, being completely honest. You know, just dressing into dance stuff and just blasting music and just doing whatever my crazy self could manage to do. Now, I also had a whole bunch of friends on the side. We were always causing trouble and stuff, and I was videotaping. Now, I've never been a person that was drinking, smoking, did drugs, never that. But that doesn't mean that I didn't videotape my friends doing this. And I got a lot of really great footage of them that I could probably make a lot of money on, since some of them are quite successful. And of course, no, I'm not going to do that. Nor am I going to show it, because it's more personal. It's fun. I'm not that kind of a guy. But I could. So don't ever cross me if you're watching this, friends. I started to get more and more involved in the program. I would participate in some of the shows that I participated in were absolutely wonderful. A Chorus Line is still one that just is embedded in my soul. I love it. Just, I get shivers when someone starts up the first song of a chorus line, when someone first press play, and just, it doesn't matter what the volume is. It just hits me like chills. It's just, whoo. I mean, there's a bunch of plays like that. Another one was Into the Woods. I just love Into the Woods also. And that, I mean, the play, I mean, this is before the movies and that kind of thing. Now, there's an older movie that had Bernadette Peters in it as the witch, and that was a good play that was recorded. It's not the modern one that was only released back, you know, in like 2016 or whatever. But what I did is I got involved in this program, and as I started to act more and more, I was in the drama classes. I realized I was not going to be leading man material. I was auditioning for a lot of the shows, but since I was not a double or triple threat, meaning an actor, dancer, singer, or anything like that, I was more tech material. I'll just put it that way. So I started doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes in stage crew, props crew, lighting, and sound. Can you imagine that? Me in the sound department? And I started getting overall tech training and background. And this ended up being great for me. Now, in my 10th grade year, I took an intermediate drama class. And this was with a teacher who really just, he started me off on my path that I'm now currently on. His name was Kieran Narker, Mr. Narker. Now, one of the things he did, in addition to teaching, you know, scenes and drama, not dance, but drama and monologues, this kind of thing, is he did invite us to sometime in spring do something called an independent project. If I was a musician, I could bring in that music, the instrument, and do a performance for the class and say, this is what I'm into. As long as it was arts related. If I played a keyboard, I can come in with my keyboard and play something for the class. Me, I was interested in video, so I considered that some sort of a visual art. So I made a video talking about camera angles and stuff, presented to the class. Okay, no problem. Got an A on the project. The following year, I took his advanced drama class. And in doing so, he did a second independent project. And at the beginning of the year, when he was talking about this in his syllabus, he did go ahead and say, in spring, we're going to be doing this independent project. So at that point, I said, I know what that is. I'm going to do that. I started shooting footage there. I started shooting footage just whenever I could on the weekends, just recording stuff because I wanted to do a more elaborate one, talking better about camera angles. I had a VCR that I was given, but I spent some money and bought a second one. Now, these are 2 VHS video, just regular garbage, 2-head mono video cassette recorders. These are just 2 VCRs. They were nothing fancy, and I didn't even at the time understand a whole lot because I was self-taught. I didn't understand a lot of the differences between like SLP, LP, SP mode. Those concepts to me were just kind of lost. I was like, well, there's a 2-hour mode, a 4-hour mode, and a 6-hour mode. Well, I'm going to get more out of my 6-hour mode. And I would do that. I would take my raw footage that was required on a video camera in SP mode, and I would instantly record it straight onto SLP. Yes, I know. I know how bad this is. I was editing a lot of my footage, and well lit and everything at the beginning, but over the course of time, it would start deteriorating in quality. I think by the time it was done and I presented to the class, it was something like 13 generations down of SLP, VHS to VHS. It was green. It had waves and squiggles all through it. It looked like garbage. But what it did do is there was an origin of that looked good enough to appeal to Mr. Narker. And he said, "You're serious about this?" I said, "Yeah, I am." And he said, "Then let me give you the number to a lady at a public access station in Atlanta." Now, Atlanta's in Fulton County. I was in DeKalb County at the time. Now, DeKalb did have a public access station there, but he gave me the phone number for the Fulton County station. So I went there to the station, drove down there, and enrolled myself in a class. Now, this class was basically a history of the station, talked about how they came up with the 4 rules, the low flaw, which is lottery, obscenity, advertising, and fundraising. Any public access show on the channel cannot have any of those 4. And they talked about the station rules and how you go about doing things. Now, I was 17, technically too young to actually produce anything there at the station, but I was very into what I was doing, and I was still like really on fire with this. So I started volunteering all over the place. And that's when I met someone that was going to become very critical to my future. His name was Aaron Siegel. Now, at the time, Aaron has a background as an audio engineer. He's done recordings. He even produced albums. And one of the albums he did, I can't remember if he mixed or I think he mixed an album with Trent Reznor. Not Trent Reznor's music, but Trent was with him and he did some sort of mastering with it. And this is if I'm remembering correctly, but this is back in the late 80s. He even said that Trent played him some tracks from Pretty Hate Machine, but they were too industrial for him at the time because they're like, yeah, he worked at the Limelight Club in Atlanta, which if you're familiar with Atlanta, huge, just like Studio 54 of the South, but in many ways it was better. Fantastic club. Just I wish this place was still open now and still doing the same kind of thing. I would have loved to jump back. If I ever get access to a time machine, as crazy as it may sound, I'm going to go back and go see Limelight, because it just, to me, is one of those things. I've seen videos. It's awesome. So here I am volunteering for shows, and I very quickly started to audition. I mean, not audition. I very quickly started to volunteer for as many shows as I could. 8 days into the studio, though, I was volunteering as a third. There were 3 cameras, and I volunteered for one of them for a show called Film Forum. It was Aaron Siegel's show, and he was one of the hosts. And there was his partner in crime. It was A&R Productions as his studio. Aaron and Randy. Now Randy was Randy Deathman, and if you're familiar with Atlanta and the '80s scene, you probably know the name Spike Deathman. If you don't, look him up. He's got a phenomenal history. Brilliant man. Just I can't say enough about Randy. He's amazing. He was an amazing guy. He passed. But Randy, he had a really awesome just vibe about him. He had an energy about him that was really infectious. Now, me, I was on the set, and we were getting ready to go. He suddenly bolts in and says, "Does anybody here have any experience being a technical director?" I looked at the other 2 cameras, and they were all in my class, and we were all just kind of looking at each other with blank faces. I quickly raised my hand. He said, "All right, quick, into the control room." I go into the control room. He says, "Ready." He sits me in the chair and says, "Ready, camera 2." And I'm like looking at this board that has stuff all over the place. I'm like, I have no idea what to do with this. So I just kind of, at that point, just kind of look up at him with big, blue eyes. And I'm like, deer caught in a headlight. And he says, "Okay, you've ever done this before?" I'm like this. He says, "Okay, this is your preview bus. This is your program bus. This is your preview monitor, program monitor. This goes over the air. This is your preview. If I see ready camera 1, it's this, it goes to preview. This goes camera 2. And he basically, in 5 to 10 seconds, explained to me everything that I needed to know. And he said, "So if I say ready camera 1, press this, ready camera 2, press this, ready camera 3, press this button to turn it," and switches them so it's now on the air. It made sense to me. The way he worded it, the way he showed me, what he pointed at, I was really on top of paying attention. And it made perfect sense to me. As a matter of fact, at the end of that, I stayed and volunteered for the next class that night. And he was telling me, or the next show that night. And he said, "Well, let me just show you how this whole place works." So he showed me a whole bunch of different things about the studio and how the gear worked and everything and how the shows were run. At the end of that, he said, "By the way, I'm not going to be here next week. Do you think you could do all this?" I'm like, wow. Okay. So 15 days after first stepping in the door at that public access station, taking my first class there, I was doing this, on live television. Now, yes, public access. So it's like Wayne's World, but even with a lesser audience. Now, public access was at least where I started. Over the years, I did make really good friends with Aaron, and but at the time, he knew I was volunteering a whole lot. I was really into this. And then when I graduated high school, actually, let me back up just a little bit. In the beginning of my senior year, my grandmother's video camera was stolen. She had a break-in, or I think we had the break-in, and the video camera was at our place. And no, it was at her place, now that I remember. And the video camera was stolen. So she had insurance, was replacing certain things, and one of those things was the video camera. She said, "What should we get?" And at the time, I had just got through saving up all of my money and buying 2 low-end editing VCRs. They were 2 JVC HRS 7100U editing VCRs, very low-end, like $650 each, SVHS. And when she asked me, what camera should we get, I suggested the Panasonic, what was it, PVS 770, I believe it was, which is not a prosumer. It was the best consumer SVHS camera you could get. And the quality was pretty good as long as it was pretty well illuminated. And so between those 2, I started doing some pretty decent stuff. Then with my graduation money, I was able to buy a Videonics MX1 digital video mixer, which is basically a switcher that had its own version of a time-based corrector built into it. And it was able to switch between 4 video sources and stuff. And that was pretty cool to me. By then, I was already producing a TV show with some of my friends that I goofed off with. And let me tell you this, side note. The stuff we put on the air is stuff that you could not get away with anymore. We would basically cause trouble. We destroyed one of my friend's cars because he didn't want it anymore. He had spent so much time and energy trying to restore the thing. He wasn't able to, and said, "You know what? Let's just destroy the car." So one day after school, we went over there and destroyed things. We would set things on fire in his backyard, and we would actually take hairspray bottles, WD-40, whatever we could. We figured out a way to make, I don't want to say bombs, but we would make, fire things that we would shoot with a BB gun. It would burst into flame, and we just loved it. It was amazing to us. We thought it was hilarious in his backyard. As a matter of fact, we even burned the vinyl siding on his house, his parents' house. But I digress. We were young, crazy, whatever. And I, at the time, was long hair down to my belly button, all the same length or all the way around. I wore all black, black shirts, black trench coat, black jeans, black boots, black cut-off finger gloves, black hat turned around backwards. And I looked the same way as I do now, except I had long hair, I was younger, and drove a black, what was it? A Ford Escort. It was like the base model. And it was really funny because back in those days, it was not really taboo to do that. And because Columbine hadn't happened. After Columbine, everything changed. Wearing a trench coat to school was no longer allowed. You couldn't get away with certain things. But my appearance was, when you look back at it, you're like, whoa, your teachers really let you do that? Yes, back then. It was a totally different world back then. And even though I was completely harmless, like I said, I never drank, never smoked, never did drugs, but I did videotape a lot of incriminating things for my friends. Just remembering some of it. Sorry. Okay, so after graduating high school, I knew I was going to be going to college at Georgia State University. They had a film program there, and I needed a summer job. Aaron Siegel recommended that he would shoot on the weekends for a company called Ascot Production Studios. He would shoot weddings and things for him. And he said, well, he's looking for an editor. Well, I applied for the job. He came in and interviewed me. By that point, I'd also acquired two 3/4 pneumatic video tape machines also, and a whole bunch of tapes. So I was able to produce my own videos using SVHS and 3/4 pneumatic tape. So I was able to get that over to People TV and put stuff live over the air in 3/4 pneumatic tape, which was pretty awesome for the time, especially for an 18-year-old. Now, the owner of Ascot Production Studios is a man named Scott Forbes. Great guy. He actually liked me enough to hire me. And I think it was also because I was young enough to be trainable. So he basically allowed me to go to school Tuesday and Thursday and come in and edit Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I would just come in, hit it hard from like 10 a.m. until 5 or whenever it was. 7 hours straight. It never really broke for lunch. And I would just edit. And I did this for quite a while. And in the middle of that, I'm still doing all these projects on the side. I was making my own movies and these crazy things, editing stuff. This is all linear, tape to tape. So it's not like in a computer where you can say, oh, let me drag this clip over this way, match everything perfectly. You had to time the tape from hitting play to the time that you would hit record. And these were technically frame accurate, but there was still a learning curve on these machines. You still had to, you know, set this, and you had to put the Control L or link or whatever it was in there, and you had to press the certain button, and you'd hope that it would rewind and hit play, and then do the edit at the right time. And you could do a you could either do an assemble edit, which is audio and video, high fidelity audio even, and the time code, or the control track rather, or you could go in and do a video insert or a 2-channel audio insert. You couldn't do split left and right, channel 1, channel 2. You could do both 1 and 2, or you could do video. So between that, I was able to make some pretty cool music videos with my friends and just all kinds of different things. As a matter of fact, I ended up doing this so much that it just became embedded in me. I was constantly videotaping everything, carrying the camera with me all the time. And I went to Georgia State University's film program, and I hated the school. The school basically boasted of having 35,000 students at the time, and a seventh of them they boasted as being in the film program. Now, the program, as I understand it, and I could be off on this, but the way it was explained to me was that the reason why they were so aggressive about getting students is because they got more money from the state because of the scholarship programs. And the more students they got, the more money they got. And by having 35,000 students and a seventh of them being film programs, they were running out of teachers. They couldn't just hire infinite number of teachers. So master students were encouraged to student teach as part of their master's program. It did not matter if those students were undergrads in chemical biology or chemical physics, whatever. It does not matter what your undergrad was in. You could be a film master student first semester and teach. And one of my teachers actually was. She even admitted it to us. She said, I'm brand new to the film program. This is my first semester in film. I have an undergrad in something related to science. And that's the reason why I'm using that as an example. We were all, when you're in film classes, people that have done it, that have done production, you kind of spot each other and you stand out. And we hear something in a class because she would read a chapter or two ahead. And as far as the school was concerned, she did a great job. As far as the students were concerned, if you had a production background, we would sometimes hear her mispronounce a term or, just any of the student teachers, not just this one lady. And you'd hear her mispronounce a term or say something the wrong way or say something that didn't make sense. And we'd start looking at each other and all of our eyes were shifting to each other at about the same time. We're like, okay, so we're not crazy. We did just hear what we heard. It didn't exactly make sense. And then, excuse me. And then over the course of the years I was there, I decided I just really did not like the film program because it was a film theory program. Now, back then, it could be different now, but back then they had this wonderful, really expensive Cineon system that allowed them to scan 35mm film and do amazing things with it. But were students allowed to use it? No, not undergrad students. You were allowed to if you were a master's or doctorate in film, but I mean, you had to basically get special permission to do it. And it's like, what in the world do you have this system for if you're not even going to allow students to teach, to use it? Especially the ones that were involved in production. What you could do is you could apply for a fall filmmaking 1 class. And if you were one of the 24, I don't want to say suck-ups, but you had to go through a lot to get into this filmmaking 1 class to get approval for it. You had to have, letters of recommendation, and you had to have made friends with the teachers and had them refer you and whatever. I didn't have time for that. I was doing shows. I was doing a lot of things. I'd volunteered for projects and films and not like film, but small projects and small things, student projects, I guess you could call them. And I was getting a lot of experience doing this, but the shows that I was working on weren't like big features. They weren't like the big stuff I'm working on now. These were all small productions. And as far as the school was concerned, it was not enough to be doing it. You had to have these letters of recommendation, which I didn't have any interest in the world. Then after that, if you were one of the 24 students that got into filmmaking 1, you could in spring apply to be one of the 20 students allowed into filmmaking 2. And then in summer, be one of the 16 students allowed to be in filmmaking 3. So every single quarter, they would drop 4 students out of the filmmaking programs. Now, I didn't care anything about those because I was like, look, if this is taught by Georgia State, it's going to be nonsense. I was getting a film theory degree, which is basically you go in there and you start learning about the theorists and what these people think about it. And I remember the last theorist that they taught us about, they said, well, he was the master of all of them. And he believes that there is no film theory. And I'm like, well, great. Why didn't you just teach this guy to begin with? There is no film theory. Great. You could have saved me, 4 months. Anyway, the program, I graduated in 6 years. And I didn't go every single semester because I caused some trouble there. I would pick fights with teachers because I didn't like some of the policies the school had. And if a teacher decided not to follow what was the class description and decided to prepare and teach different material, which sometimes they did, you would enroll for one class and then they would totally change. And they would, like, for example, a philosophy class I took was supposed to be teaching how to think deeper about things, but it ended up being changed to a history of philosophy. The only way you got your money back is if you withdrew from all classes before a certain point. I did not want to have to withdraw from every one of my classes and lose a semester. So I would go to the class and I would say, this class was changed. You changed it on me, or somebody did. I'm going to stay here and get my money's worth out of this because I'm not about to give it to the school for nothing, and you're going to feel me being here. And so I caused trouble. And back then it wasn't like, okay, you're causing trouble, you're out of this class. But I would sit there and raise my hand and I would ask questions that would probably annoy the teacher and stuff like that. And I did this. And for whatever crazy reason, I was proud of it at the time. And there were some teachers I had that certainly deserved some pestering. Not all of them, so I wasn't mean to all of them. But I do know that I was going to fail those classes because it wasn't what I had signed up for. And there was no way in the world that this teacher, who was probably a master's student in their own department, was going to be able to teach me something totally unrelated to what I actually was interested in. So I graduated in 6 years after even being suspended a couple of semesters for bad grades. And finally was able to enter the real world. I guess you could say. And I was continuing to do different things on the side. After I left Ascot Production Studios, I had worked at Earthlink. I'd worked at Arthur Anderson before the whole Enron thing, before Earthlink, and it was right after the Earthlink Mindscreen merger. I had earned martial arts, a first-degree black belt, and I became one of the junior instructors at a martial art facility, and I taught there. Excuse me, I taught there for a while, and then I became a professional photographer, a PPA photographer for a bit. Then, and all the time I'm volunteering for all these different shows. And Aaron Siegel was still a friend of mine that I was friends with over the course of time. And he then introduced me. He was doing a lot of features on the side. He had started to get into the world of movies, and he was mixing sound because, you know, he was very interested in that. And he would sometimes reach out to me and say, Alan, are you interested in being a boom operator for me? So I did my first booming thing with him at all in like 2001. And that was a movie called The Greenskeeper. I think it occasionally shows up on Netflix if you want to watch it. I think my name's in the credits and it's spelled wrong. Or maybe it's his name that was spelled wrong and mine was not even in there. I can't remember what it was. It was crazy. The movie was not very good. But I don't know very many people whose first credits are very good. Now, the funny thing about this, and you know, Aaron Siegel, when I left the photography company, he was getting into the film industry because the tax incentive had come to Georgia and production was starting to build up. And that's when I was needing a job. He started getting me into the commercial world. So real quick, let me go back to high school, and because there's one little thing I wanted to discuss here that's going to lead into this. My senior year of high school, I was involved with the playwriting directing class of Mr. Narker. And there was me and one other student that the school would just randomly throw in there, even though they were not a performing arts student. It was usually a troubled youth, and they were nice enough to us, but they had no reason to be in that class. They were not interested in this, but the school was assigning them to them because they said, you cannot have one teacher and one student in this one class. And I think that might have even been one of the last times they allowed this playwriting, directing, screenwriting class. But it was very obvious that Mr. Narker was going to be basically a one-on-one teacher to me, but he was going to do his job and teach the other person too. But because I was there every semester and they changed out, I was very much active, and he was and the other students were like, oh, yeah, you do you. And they were very happy with just letting us do things. Well, he decided the senior year to do a project, there was a teenage pregnancy competition. And it was like, they had criteria. It had to be like 3 to 5 minutes, no more than 5 minutes. You had to cover certain things, and it had to be submitted by a certain time. And he decided to take his 2 advanced drama classes and my playwriting, directing, screenwriting class, and we each produced videos for it. The videos, we all decided amongst all the classes to just do a good quality video, even if we were disqualified for going over the 5-minute time limit. And of course, we all did. Every one of our videos were disqualified because they went over the time limit. But the program was like, your videos were great, except mine. My video, I had no knowledge of sound. Before I went to work at Ascot, I did not understand or care at all about sound. My project, I basically used a like $10 Radio Shack microphone that was plastic. It was an omnidirectional thing on a cord, went into a mono 1/8-inch plate, which a little cable, plugged it into the video camera, did not bother monitoring it. What I did not know though, is that worked fine. But if you connected it up via a 25-foot headphone extension cable that I bought at Radio Shack, that's when you would have problems, because it was a mono microphone into a stereo cable, and it would short out inside of the mono input on the camera. And so the nice whatever audio that was going in mono with just the microphone plugged in, when I did my test, when I plugged it into a stereo cable, zzz, buzzing is all you get, and your audio level is way down in the mix. I mean, it's useless. I didn't know this. I didn't monitor this. So in the videos that I did, I didn't really seem to care about monitoring the sound. So in the video that I did, I basically played a boyfriend to a girl who ends up you know, pregnant, and then I abandon her and, you know, leave, and she now decides that she's going to continue school and even without me, and you know, do that for the best of her child. That was our story that we had written and we shot. When we get this, we shot this whole thing in one day. Bring the footage into my editing suite. Come to find out all the audio is buzzing. My audio was completely useless. I couldn't make this a music video because it was too much dialogue. There was too much. We shot really fast. It would have been awesome had we had good audio. But we did use the microphone and held it over, you know, everything we were supposed to do, trying to get good audio. But it just was not being monitored, and it, for that reason, failed me. So that project was one of the first projects that was embedded in me as to it was failed because the sound was not very good. When I went to work at Ascot Production Studio, one of the first things he taught me in editing was that it doesn't matter what it looks like. If it does not look good, if it does not sound good, it can't look good. And that hit home to me because if you can imagine me doing these videos and it basically just, the sound was not there. It sounded like garbage. It looked good. I mean, good enough. But when you don't hear a sound, you are really nitpicky about the picture. When you hear sound and it sounds good, it makes the picture look better. Because, you know, like imagine a show or a movie that you watch. If the picture is, you know, green or blue or brown, you can look at it and say, ooh, that was processed. It's artistic looking. But if you hear a lav scratch, what was that? No, did you hear that? Oh, that didn't sound right. It takes you out of the movie, takes you out of the experience. So that's one of the differences between a picture and sound. You can easily suspend disbelief and say, ooh, that lighting makes it look really, really dark and moody. Well, lav scratching makes it sound unprofessional. So now let me jump back up to when I got back into the film industry. I was, you know, I learned some principles of audio. I was starting to be a boom operator. I made a lot of mistakes, believe me. And over the course of time, I was doing better and better and better with what I was doing. But I guess you could say that the thing that was, I guess, embedded in me was teaching. I, you know, really enjoyed teaching. And it's one of those things where back in elementary school, I was showing people techniques and things that I had figured out on the video camera. When I was in martial arts, that's one of the reasons I became a martial arts instructor, because I really enjoyed the teaching. When I was a photographer, I became what was called a lead photographer, which was a trainer, mentor, team leader, and kind of a supervisory role. And I enjoyed the teaching aspect of that. When I was at Earthlink, I quickly became a senior level tech and was kind of the team mentor. I was constantly in some sort of a leadership role and very interested in leadership and teaching. So being a boom operator, being the person that basically runs the set, was something that as I started to become more and more efficient at it, I wanted to give back. I wanted to teach this and really do well with it. And I think it was probably 5 years or so, you know, it was about 5 years ago, I guess, I started to teach what I was learning as a boom operator. And Aaron Siegel was hiring me. He was my main mixer for a long time. And that's one of the reasons why I still feel indebted to him to this day. You know, he and I have known each other for 25 years now. It's quite an amazing thing. But Aaron, he was not ever a boom operator, really. So he was teaching me things, but then I was also learning a lot of things on my own, School of Hard Knocks. And I would go to work with other mixers between shows and that kind of thing. And some of the things I learned that that was very difficult for me to learn, I wanted to teach other people so they didn't have some of the same hardships. So I started teaching, and I started teaching classes at union halls. Later, I started at our union hall. Then I started teaching classes at high schools, and then I started teaching classes at college, not full-time instructor, but as a guest instructor. And I would teach other things as well. The bug in me to teach was strong, and I've been teaching now for about 5 years. When I met my wife, she was a gamer, and she enjoyed playing games and rekindled my love from childhood in playing games. And we started playing more and more games together. So we went through the Final Fantasies, we went through, you know, Legend of Legaia, a bunch of different games. And then she was recommended to play World of Warcraft. And when she played it, she said, you would love this because you were playing Dungeons and Dragons, that kind of thing. So I started playing. Now, over the course of about 4.5 years, I played a lot of WoW. I also played, you know, for a brief stint, I switched over to Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I played that. My daughters were into Minecraft, so I'd play Minecraft with them, and I'd build some crazy things and come back and share it with them. But then when I was playing WoW one day, I logged in, and I saw a total time played of about 200 days. And it just hit me, 200 days is almost 2/3 of a year. In 4.5 years, I had played almost 2.5 years of that time in World of Warcraft. Now, it does not count like, you know, total amount of time that you played in like days. Like I started this 200 days ago, so I've been playing 200 days. It counts it more like as soon as you've played 60 minutes, it counts as an hour. It counts as an hour. As soon as you play 60 hours or 24 hours, that counts as a day. When you play 200 days, that means that you have played a lot of hours. And that's over the course of 4.5 years. And some of that was also playing, you know, I played other games too, Minecraft and Star Wars: Old Republic. So when I saw that, I realized that I'd probably played maybe of about, you know, closer to 3.5 years of World of Warcraft. And I had played about 2/3 of that, of 1 year in that game. And I would play in the evenings, I would do a raid or I would do dungeons or PvP or something like that for probably 4 or 5 hours. On the weekends, at night, I would play it on the weekends as well, play it into the early morning hours. And I suddenly said to myself, if I don't pay my monthly subscription, then I'm no longer going to have this character. And after 18 months, it will fall out of the WoW armory and completely vanish, and I will have nothing to show for it except stories. It would be a shame for me to do that with my life. So I decided that since there's a lot of things that I'm interested in regarding sound, I decided to do a YouTube channel for sound. But how do I get there? Well, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And even while I was playing WoW and stuff like that, I was approached by a guy named Matt Price who was starting up a website called soundrolling.com. And at the time of this video, his YouTube channel is called Matt Price. And he was reaching out to industry professionals, especially those that were interested in educating and telling stories and that kind of thing, and asked them to be part of something called Sound Chats. And I was the 11th person he interviewed for this Sound Chat. Here's a quick clip of it.
Obviously things like Fast and Furious, because if you're on the action unit, what sort of stuff are you covering?
Well, of course, it's in post-production. Every bit of the stuff I did on it was before Paul Walker died. Afterwards, I was too busy. But we had a very, very busy stunt unit. Of course, being that it's Fast and Furious, there's a lot of cars. There's a lot of vehicles of all sorts. I'm not going to go into it in any more detail than that. But there's a lot. But you'll see a lot of it in the trailer if you watch the trailer online. And there are a lot of crashes. They love to just and one of the things I really appreciate is real stunts. So many times now they default to CGI stunts and it doesn't look right. And CGI is better used, in my opinion, for fixing little details, replacing a background. Leave the stunt and actors that or there are stunt doubles. Let the stunt doubles do the real stunt, and then remove their wires, change their clothes, that kind of stuff. But let the stunt be the stunt. That's the really awesome stuff. And plus, it's a lot of fun to participate.
So that's an excerpt from the 1-hour video interview with Matt Price. When I decided to start doing a YouTube channel, I reached out to Matt and I said, let me ask you this. Would you feel I'm stepping on your toes if I decided to do a class? He said, no, man, absolutely not. The more the merrier. So I decided I was going to do some research and start up some research. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do or how I wanted to do it. I didn't know if it was going to be like Matt does and just kind of when you feel inspired, just put a camera on me and give a quick tip. Or I just came up with something or learned a new trick and I wanted to share it. Did I want to do that? I decided I was going to do it a different way. I wanted to mix it up and have a different looking channel than that. Matt is doing a great job on his channel. He doesn't need me to do that. As a matter of fact, check out Matt's channel if you have not. He's got a great channel. A lot of information on there. If you're interested in filmmaking, he's an ENG sound mixer in London, but he does scripted shows as well, and he does all kinds of different things. So he presents a lot of information on his channel. So definitely check him out. He's awesome. Now, in my channel, I didn't really know what I want to do or how I want to do it. So I started doing some research, and I came across a guy who you probably have heard of. He has a channel called Booth Junkie. His name is Mike Delgadio. He had about 1,000 subscribers at the time. He was going through his he was going through his microphones, and he would compare microphones. He would compare them against each other. And he has quite a few microphones in his locker, at least back then. And he would compare them and talk about different things. But he also did other things, like he would go into a hotel room and he would use what was in that hotel room as and make himself a makeshift booth so he could audition for jobs while he was on vacation, or while he was someplace on a job, he could audition for more, or even do some recordings. And he would do these videos, and I thought they were really cool. He talked about acoustic panels at one point and built one. He talked about, he did very different things. He went into his shower and, made it into a vocal booth. I mean, it was pretty cool stuff. And I was like, wow, this guy's pretty cool. And I didn't really reach out to him until he hit about 4,000 subscribers. Then I said, I'm going to actually reach out to him because I've been watching a lot of his content, and it just, to me, I basically looked at it when I did my initial test for sound speeds. I didn't really know a whole lot about what I wanted it to look or sound like. But I'll tell you this, I had gone at that point to Mike's channel, and I had heard a microphone, because that's basically what I was doing. Is I was perusing his channel originally, looking for a good microphone for my voice. And he ended up doing a comparison of the the CAD Equitech E100 and the CAD Equitech E100S. And I listened to him and I said, that E100, the vintage one, I like the sound of that one. And I think because my voice has a higher pitch register, I think it's going to sound better with my voice than a lot of these presence boosted mics that you have all over the place, because I'm not big into presence boost. I like more of a flat. Even I need to try to get as much of my low end that I possibly can. I need to get that into my sound and less into the whole high pitch boosting of my voice. I don't need any more highs. I need to just have the low end boosted, if anything. And I liked the sound of that microphone, so I bought one. Then I bought a webcam and set it up on my computer, and I said, okay, I'm going to set this up on me and see what I think. And I did an initial test to see how I would look and how I would sound. It ended up being kind of goofy. It sounded okay, even though the air conditioning was on, and I did no post-processing. I basically just matched the sound to the picture and put it out there. Interested in seeing how it looks? Okay, I'll play a clip. Here you go. But when it comes down to indies, a lot of indie producers spend all their money on picture. They spend all their money on camera. They don't know what in the world they're doing, so they say, I want it to look awesome. Well, get this. It's going to look awesome by the time you're done color timing it and processing it anyway. However, will it sound awesome? If it doesn't sound good, it doesn't look good. I'll say it again. If it does not sound good, it does not look good. Let that sink in for a second. Let's say that there is a fight scene and someone does a punch and you don't hear a bone cracking, crack, smack, whatever the sound is. You don't hear that. And instead of it sounds more like a... That doesn't sell the stunt. That doesn't sell the fact that a boxer, a Rocky Balboa just got smacked in the face by Ivan Drago. It does not sell at all. If it doesn't sell, it doesn't work. But you put a bone smacking from Rocky 1. Let's continue on the Rocky analogies. Rocky 1, when Rocky is hitting the meat, hanging in the meat factory or whatever the place is, you hear bones cracking, you hear meat smacking and that kind of stuff. It's a rough sound. That sound is what sells the fact that he's strong and he's breaking the ribs and whatever else. And if that punch that you do in your indie does not have a similar sound and effect, it doesn't sell it. So it doesn't matter if it looks, what it looks like. If you have people throwing punches, they're missing each other on set, most likely, unless you really go for it. And you have to do a sound effect that makes it sound like it looks. That's the important thing right there. Make it sound like it looks. And you're going to hear me say that a lot throughout our adventures in these videos. That was SoundSpeed's Genesis. That was the very first initial test I did for SoundSpeeds. Now, what I learned from this is the microphone I could make sound good. I didn't do any post-processing, and I knew the conditions were going to have to be a little bit different there. But what I did learn from this is that my background looked like garbage. I did not like that. I looked at this and I said, if I were to flip around and be looking and scrolling through videos and someone had a really awesome looking title, but that was their background, that was their image, or if I clicked on it and started to watch it and that's the kind of presentation the person has, it doesn't look professional at all, that was not going to keep me around very long. So I decided that was not going to be the way I wanted to go. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to have a more constant background. And from watching Mike's channel, Booth Junkie, I said to myself, do I want to have a booth looking environment? Yes and no. Obviously, I don't want a booth. I don't want a whisper room like he has. I wanted to do something different. Now, people recognize acoustic paneling as something that looks like more of a booth or more of a studio, even though Owens Corning 703 fiberglass insulation is really the best. And there's many other off-brands. There's the kind that there's Arlex, there's a whole bunch of them that are better than this stuff. This is more of a set that I produced to make it look presentable to you guys. So that way you would actually look at me on this background and say, he at least looks like he's in a professional environment. That will at least get you in the door so that you can start listening to what I'm saying. Now, I do understand acoustics. I know how they work. I know that my voice is higher pitched. So since I'm addressing it this way, I need to have Owens Corning 703 behind the camera to block a lot of this sound from bouncing back on me. A lot of the low ends in my voice is going to dissipate. It's going to go that way and it's going to come back and you're not going to hear a whole lot of it because my body is blocking it from the microphone. The microphone is actually this far away from me, but out of where you can see in the camera. Like, to give you an idea, it's right there. It is literally behind a windscreen in front of me, and it's here. I mean, I'm touching it, and my hands are barely out like that far. But I wanted to have a microphone that was that close, and I wanted it to look like a professional environment. I don't like having a microphone in my face. I just do not like that. I've seen people online that have their face right here with a microphone in front, and it just looks dumb to me. You don't need that in a video. You need to see your face. Now, granted, you may look at my face and say, it's not much to look at. Well, you're probably right. But what you can't say is, I'm boring. At least in my content. If you're here on a sound channel, you're going to hear sound-related content. And hopefully, for the most part, it's exciting. It's at least something educational, something that's keeping you coming back. And if you're actually watching this point in this video, which is almost an hour in, or about an hour in, then you got to be saying, first of all, why am I still watching this? And second of all, you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, where is he going with this? Well, talking to Mike, it kind of helped me realize, because one of the things he was doing in his channel at the time is he was trying to experiment with different microphones and different things. And a lot of what he was doing was comparing his microphones to his other microphones, because he was not yet big enough to have people sending him stuff, even though he was certainly willing to try out people's microphones, because he's a gearhead. He likes that kind of stuff. He likes playing with like new technology, likes playing with microphones and that kind of thing. And he has done quite well for himself. I'm very, very impressed with what he's created in, only a year and a half or something like that. A year and a half, 2 years or whatever it is at the time of this video. And it's quite phenomenal to me that he has now gotten to the point where people are sending him their own things to listen to and to test and to play with. But I would like to point out that originally I reached out to Mike when he had about 4,000 subscribers, and I said, would you be interested in trying out any of my microphones? I'm a professional in the sound department in the film industry, and I have some things that might be a little different than anything you've played with before. Do you have any interest in that? He said, absolutely. And I don't think that a whole lot of people were doing that at the time. So I sent him things because part of it was I wanted to hear what he was going to be, how he was going to do the reviews. Because what is important to me as a film sound person may not be what's important as a voiceover professional. And as someone that has been doing a YouTube channel for a while, it might be something that he would find something different or come at it from an angle of approach different for the YouTube audience. So I wanted to see what he would do with it. At the same time, I was sending him things, and I did not necessarily know what he was going to. I didn't know him. I had watched his channel. He seemed like a nice guy, but I told him, before I sing anything, I'd like to actually talk to you. I want to get a feel of you on the phone. So he gave me his number. I called him on my way home from work one night, and we talked a little while. We really, just hit it off. And I said, absolutely, I'm going to send you some stuff. I sent him some stuff. He tested it, got it back to me. Then I said, well, that worked out really well. I sent him some more stuff. And then I sent him some more stuff. And I kept doing this more and more and more. And his channel was continuing to grow. And now hold on a second. Let me say also right quick, before you think that, I'm trying to take any credit for him. No, not at all. I was sending him a lot of stuff because I wanted to see what he was going to do with it. I like his voice. I like to see how he presents stuff on his channel. And I wanted to see how he would do that indifferently than me. So it was educational for an additional reason that it would be to his audience. Now, Mike has since become pretty a pretty good friend, I guess you could say, in the world of YouTube. He's grown really, nicely. He and I still communicate and we still talk. And he also offered me a lot of advice when I first started up. He told me, got to do certain things certain ways. You got to make sure that you specify this. If you want to do things legit, make sure that you do that. And he was very, very knowledgeable, and I really appreciated that. And over the course of time, we've continued to be friends. And as a matter of fact, I'm building some cables for him and stuff now for his studio. But anyway, a few months into me starting SoundSpeeds, he did something really awesome for me. When I first started SoundSpeeds, I told myself I did not ever want to get to the point where I was asking for likes and shares and subscribers and donations and that kind of thing. I don't want to beg for that kind of stuff. If you haven't figured it out yet, my style is very much, I yell out the name of the channel, which comes from what we yell in the sound department. When they say roll sound, we're about to start recording, they say roll. Sound starts recording, the sound mixer will slate verbally, usually, and then it will be in my ears. I'm on set, so I yell out SoundSpeeds to indicate that sound is now rolling. That way, camera can slap the sticks and we can do the scene. That's the reason why I call the channel SoundSpeeds, because that is the indicator that you can now roll camera, we're ready to go. That's why. Now, after I had a few videos under my belt, I did put it out to my YouTube network, friends, professionals, family, everybody. I said, if any of you are interested, please check out my YouTube channel. Let me know your thoughts and what you think of it. My first videos were very slow paced. They were not very, they were interesting, but they weren't like the more modern ones are. Over the course of time, I've really dialed in on who my most popular audience is. Believe it or not, a lot of film people don't watch my channel. They know enough to basically say, I'm not going to really waste my time with this guy. Even though I've been told by people that do come to my channel, man, everybody needs to be watching you. I play some of my SoundSpeeds videos in some of the classes that I teach, and people are like, I need to go to your channel and check it out. But a lot of sound people that feel, they're not YouTube. They don't go to YouTube for information. They simply go out drinking with other people and they share information. They'll still socialize. Now I do all that kind of stuff too, but I on the side have the SoundSpeeds YouTube channel now. But back in, I guess you could say, October, Mike did something that was really awesome to me. My channel, I had basically about 200, and I remember having 214 subscribers at the time. And Mike did a video.
There's another YouTube channel that I would like to recommend to you all to go and subscribe. A brand new YouTube channel. And this is run by my friend Alan Williams. And Alan has also been extraordinarily generous to this channel. So much of the equipment that you've seen me review has been provided to me by him. Just sends it out of his own pocket, out of his own goodwill. He sends me equipment to review, and I use it for a little while, and I package it up and I send it back. The DBX 286, the AKG 4000B, that incredible DPA microphone, the MixPre 6, the mobile pre, all the sound devices stuff. Oh my God, just so much stuff. He sent me this shirt. I realized he sent me this shirt. Alan has been an extraordinarily generous subscriber and provided so much great stuff, been very educational for me, and has allowed me to make a lot of videos that you guys have enjoyed. Now, he has started his own YouTube channel, and he's in the same position I was when I was starting out. He's got like 200 subscribers, and he's putting out great content, but it's so hard to get exposure when you're just starting out. Now, Alan has credibility all over the place. If you've been alive in 2015, 16, 17, and watched movies or watched TV, subscribed to Netflix, you've seen Alan's work. And I'll link to his IMDb page in the description. But Alan is a boom operator on films and television. And in a week, on Halloween, you're going to start to see his work all over again. Because he's the boom operator for Stranger Things. Don't tell anybody I told you.
Because of that shout out, my subscriber base went from about 214 people up to about 800, a little bit over. And that's in 2 days. My channel basically quadrupled in size in 2 days. I've been accused of having buddied up so that way he could plug my channel. That's not why I buddied up with him. I buddied up with him just as a side of being two professionals in sound and wanting to send him some stuff for him to review and liking to hear what he said about my stuff. And we just buddied up for that reason. And in my opinion, I think that, it's worked out really well. I mean, I even have my Boot Junkie swag on right now because, which at the time of this video is not being sold yet because, I like the guy. As a matter of fact, I got to show this too. Check that out. So if you're familiar with the Boot Junkie channel, yeah, this is pretty cool. I'm geeking out about it. And yes, I'll be wearing this around Atlanta. So if somebody happens to see it, they might say, "Hey, now," and maybe they'll say something. Who knows? But I was very, very pleased. You could not imagine how pleased I was at the people that came. And some of them just subscribed because he gave me the shout out and said, please go and check out his channel. Some of you have actually come from the channel and become active and participate and have participated in some of my participation opportunities, have commented on my videos. You're here and you're here. And I really appreciate you. I know you. I know where you came from. And I very much appreciate this shout out to Mike. It may have been a small thing to him, but to me, it was huge. And because my whole goal here is I love educating. I love to reach people. So in my opinion, the more people that I could potentially reach, the more people I could potentially help. And I really like that. So by me going and doing Sound Speeds and continuing to, now originally when I did Sound Speeds, I decided I was going to do 100 episodes. And I was going to release one every 3 days. That was very ambitious. That has been a very difficult thing for me to keep up. So after I hit episode number 100, I did decide to go back to approximately one video every 4 days. And I say approximately because that's my goal. But if I end up slipping back to a 5th day or something like that as a release schedule, because my workload is crazy, I'm not going to continue to do a 16-hour day at work, an hour and a half away one way just to come home, shoot an episode, and get 1.5 hours of sleep and then go away and do the same thing again. It has really been draining, but I made that as a commitment and I wanted to do that. But I'm not going to kill myself anymore for this channel. Not to that extent, I should say. Now, I still burn the midnight oil. I still record a lot of stuff in the late evening, and I do that because I love what I'm doing here on Sound Speeds. Most of my viewers now are people that are more interested in home podcasting, in home recording, those kind of things. People that are more consumer based. So that's where I have been kind of directed on my YouTube channel too. So I've started to do more in that. That kind of stuff is also, related to sound. It's stuff that I've done before. I know how acoustics work with regards to on-set recording, and I know how that works in a studio as well. I know how microphones sound, whether it is a end address or if it's a side address microphone. I know the difference between large, medium, and small diaphragm microphones. I know the difference between dynamics and condensers. I know how to do things that are going to hopefully be educational to you and to explain things like that to you. So going forward on this YouTube channel, I am going to be doing one video every 4 days, like I mentioned, but I'm also going to be launching a couple of new series because, which by the time you're watching this video, it may have already been launched. I don't know, but it's going to be one of those things where this is my way of giving back. I want to have this channel be what is going to be most valuable to you. And if me talking about the difference between 44.1K and 48K is important to you, by all means, I will continue to make those kind of videos. But I do have a couple of, and I will make those videos, but I do have a couple of leads on some stuff that I think is going to be more valuable to you. And that's where I'm going to be going with this channel going forward. Something that I think is going to be something that I have, from my research, I have not seen anyone else online doing it the way that I'm going to be doing it. And I'm going to be going a little bit deeper with the participation opportunity, participants that participated. I'm going to be using their voiceovers that presented to me, and I'm going to be using those. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I wanted to at least tell you and share with you a little bit about the origins of sound speeds, where we started, where we basically go to, and to give you an idea, I've grown quite a bit since doing this channel. It's been a lot of fun. It's been very challenging. I've met a lot of great people. As a matter of fact, I've interacted with you guys quite a bit. I tried, at least for the first 100 episodes, to interact with every single comment I've received. I haven't blocked anyone as of now, but I will if I see the need to. If somebody's being abusive or whatever on the channel, I will block you. But as of now, I have not blocked anybody. I'm not telling you to challenge it or anything like that. But I've also listened, and for example, there were some things that I mentioned in the video about the look of sound speeds that came from viewers. Viewers have recommended that I do certain things because it was very hard on their eyes, for example, to see a flash transition. So I changed the transition so it still worked for me and it wasn't a jump cut. Another recommendation that came from somebody was during my 5 video series on can you EQ a bad mic to sound good. Someone recommended that I replace the CAD Equitech E100 with another with another microphone that I had featured on the channel that I was using in the video, which is the AKG C4000B. I actually use this for gunshot microphone recording because it has a high SPL and sounds really good for gunshots. But that came as a recommendation from a viewer. And I said, you know what, I'm going to try it. I listened to it and I said, wow, I do like the way this microphone sounds with my voice. So I decided to go forth with that one. So sometime around December, late December, early January 2017/2018, I switched over and started using the AKG C4000B. And I'm always on the prowl looking for new, amazing microphones to use and try and experiment with on this channel. And I buy a lot of microphones. I bought 2 like 2 days ago. It's kind of funny. So I constantly buy new things. I try cheaper microphones. I try more expensive microphones. I play with a lot of those different things, and I'm going to be bringing to you some fun things regarding these microphones very soon. But for right now, I'll say thank you so much again for being part of Sound Speeds in the first 100 episodes. Thanks for being hopefully one of my first 1,500 subscribers. If not, you know, I'm not going to beg you to be a subscriber or to beg you to watch my videos. Of course, I'd love for you to do that kind of stuff, but it's not my nature to beg for likes, shares, subscribes, donations. All that stuff is down there in the below part of this video, the comment section, or not those comments, but the description, if you want to do it. If you like, great. It just simply helps me to be up higher in the searches. If you subscribe, then you get an opportunity to see the new videos I'm releasing. If you share it, then obviously it's going to help me to probably grow too. If you decide to donate, any money I receive will go straight back into this channel. So there you go. That's probably the only time you'll really hear me talk about that for, you know, for at least a period of time, because I don't normally talk about that kind of stuff. But thank you again for being part of this, and thanks for watching this. So tune into more episodes of Sound Speeds in the future for more fun, maybe history, and sound advice.
Have a question you'd like answered or want to add something? Be sure to write it in the comment section down below. You can also make a suggestion for future topics of discussion. Again, comment section down below, or you can email me at soundspeeds@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future sound advice.